I hate how people talk about, oh, it's a casino. No, no, no. Originally, it was meant for people to put money into a company. Then as the company profit, you get a nickel back per each share, whatever you got. And that makes the company grow. And if it makes a profit, long as it's making a profit, you get your little, dividend and what have you, but you're also contributing to an industry to help more jobs for more people and more people who are working. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry for getting sidetracked here, but since this is a platform, I hate when I watch the business report. And they talk as if the employee and the consumer are two different people. Mm. Like the consumer got a money tree back there, just like the United Technologies. Mm-hmm. The whole big Trump thing, he done saved so many jobs, and mm-hmm. then he get mad because the union president did what he had to do. His workers call him saying, okay, I got my job, and he had to say, I'm sorry. Out of those 1,100 jobs, 300 of them were in-house engineering jobs that weren't going to go anyway. So out of the 1,100, what you thought were union jobs, only 700, so that's 300 plus people that will not have a job. And then you got so many people, they're so contracted from not, people miss the wall to concrete. Mm-hmm. There's a generation that don't know that, where news was plain and simple. So when you don't have those people who have that practical concept of being willing to see things for what they are and willing to make a decision, don't beat up on Trump. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And that president, I couldn't believe the union president family were being threatened because he was just trying to be fair to his members by letting them know, I'm sorry, everybody, the 1,100 or so y'all thought would have a job. That's not the case. So again, that whole commercialization, each commercial is like a minute or 30 seconds, so your mind get to focus on just something for just a couple of seconds. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to 10 or 15 minutes of concentration and having to work it, we don't want to do that. Because I may realize something I really don't want to have to realize. I may have to realize if they do robotics in this plant, my neighbor may not have a job. And I may need to look at a broader perspective on what's going to go on. Just like with the Hillary Clinton, they talked about the aspect of, she said, there'll be no more coal jobs, but they didn't follow up. But we're going to look at setting up job training programs. So former coal miners can be trained in welding, carpentry, electrical work. We're doing clean energy, so we'll need people to install the fans on the wind things, work on the turbines or what have you. So, it's just a whole nother thing that there was a time I didn't think TV messed with people that much, but now I realize it does. Just like with young people, they watch these reality TV shows. Mm-hmm. So you got these girls acting a fool, because what do? They see the women on TV acting a fool, throwing up the tables, the wives of Orange County or the wives of New Jersey or what have you, where I had to remind myself, because we didn't see that on Leave It to Beaver or Dr. Knows Best or Julia. Mm-hmm. The women there were dignified. They carried themselves a certain way. Mm. So, the little things over time, they do add up and do affect our society.
Before you came here today, I went with my friend, and she's looking at buying a house in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So we were talking to the realtor, and the realtor said, when people go to buy a house, they have a totally different perspective on how, what's important and stuff like that, because there's a TV show on about people going and buying houses.
HGTV, House Hunters.
You've seen it?
Yes, I watch it religiously.
Now, she said that she was contacted by house hunters.
Okay.
And they said, we understand that this woman is looking for a house, and you are her agent. Mm-hmm. So she said, what's the story on this house that this woman wants to buy? And the realtor said, well, she already decided on a house. She's going to have this small little house, And they said, well, we would like to do an episode on her. So could she pretend she hasn't made up her mind yet? Do you have 2 other houses that you could show her on your list? She says, yeah. So can you pretend that you're showing her house A and that she finds this good and that good, house B, this good, and then house C, and then at the end of the episode, she likes
the house that she bought.
And so the realtor says, this is all like scripted, and it's like got nothing to do with the way it's...
You confirmed when I would watch these shows, because it would be like you see the couple of because reality TV is some of the cheapest television nowadays. That's why actors and everything, being a theater person, started out at the African Culture Center, went over to the University of Buffalo, studied under Saul Elkin, Lorna Hill, Ed Smith, and various other wonderful directors and what have you. And I was just saying, maybe I'm just ego tripping. Maybe I'm just being resentful because, especially, you got all these people coming out. You never had so many universities with performing arts program. Okay, but the platforms for all these artists coming out of universities is diminishing. Because if you see regular reality TV show, and then the TV shows you do have, they're so depressing and so dark and so, it's like, where's the creativity? I miss American Playhouse, where they used to do theater on TV, and you had the concerts on CBS and so forth and so on. So with you just confirming, because I would sit there, because they got a special one called Tiny Houses, House Hunters, Tiny Houses. And I was tripping out when I saw they did one in Buffalo. I said, oh Lord, our property value's going to go up in Western New York. We on national television. And I'm like, wait a minute. This feels kind of funny, the way they got this thing going on with the, oh baby, I want the granite. Oh, I don't like stainless steel. I want the charm. And I'm like, some of these folks been taking, because if you saw the beginning and you start to see it becoming progressively better, and how the couple engage and how they speak, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is the new TV world. Pretty soon, just like they have robots in the GM plants and everything, doing the welding and everything and stuff like that, they'll just get the regular person, because people like me are sitting up here watching it, because I like to see different cities, different towns, and because the Travel Channel then got, between ghosts, whatever, and museum stuff, where you used to have no reservation with Anthony Bourdain, so you got the world Samantha Brown, you still got Zimmerman, but even that. So I'm like, okay, they taking these reality TV shows and taking them to the next level. And so it's like, what is our world coming to? Did she agree to go with it and do the TV show with the house?
Yeah.
She did?
Yeah,
okay.
It was all fake. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the realtor's like wondering, well, what kind of a world is this where everything we're seeing that's supposed to be real is all...
But that feeds into the recent phenomenon we did. Can you imagine this? Over 50% of the people that voted for one particular person said, most of the stuff I don't believe he's going to do it. With 34% actually believe he would do it. But they just like him because he speaks his mind. That's why they voted for him.
I found that so puzzling.
But you know what? I don't. Because it goes back to the story in the Bible, where the book of Judges, where God was trying to get man to be at one relationship with him. That's why he took Israel. He said, I want to make Israel an example, how man can be in direct union with he who created all things. Mm-hmm. And what they would have were judges, just wise people like Deborah. She would just sit under the tree. She would sit under the tree, wait for people to come to her and ask questions and everything. But there was no government. It was a thing of, if you raise the people up to be respectful of each other, loving and caring of each other, knowing if you do more than likely you'll end up with more. If you do less, that's okay too, but don't judge the person who's doing more. But also be willing to talk to the divine directly. But after a while, Israel looked at its neighbors. Well, they got a king. How come we don't have a king? But they didn't see, you got something better than that. You're not going to have a figurehead that got to compound it on your door, but you're so in union when the time comes. If you have to protect each other, the 12 tribes, they've got their warrior men that'll come together, protect Israel, and then you go back farming or doing merchant or what have you. But they said, we want a king. We want a king. So God said, okay. I was hoping my word would be enough. But since you want to be like your neighbors, fine, I'll give you a king. Saul. Because what happens when you have a king? And it even goes back to what you were talking about, the 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Of commercials where you just pop things in your head. You don't have to think anymore.
Ah.
You got a king? I just know if I take them my 1 goat per year, and I take them 4 dozen of eggs, and I take them the vat of oil and the 2 vats of wine, I got protection.
I was just reading that yesterday.
Oh, wow.
In ancient Egypt, it was the job of the priests, which was an actual job. See, the way the people looked at it, our welfare is determined by what the gods give us. So they said, well, therefore, we got to keep the gods happy. So we're going to have these people called priests, and it's their job to keep the gods happy. And then what was the job of the people? They just had to, like, attend the festivals that were held, you know, which is basically a big party. But it was the job of the priest to keep the gods happy. So if there was a year where no rains came, it was the priest's fault. They're not doing their job.
And see, and that's the whole thing for so many of us, is the fact that it's just like the whole opioid issues that's going on and everything. I have to admit, I'm kind of, when people's on drug in the city, it's a crime. Now it's drugs all over the place. Now, God, it's a disease. All right. But part of the issue was, when I was a kid, if you ran and you fell, gouged your knees out, you went to grandmama, she washed it out, soap and water, and put that iodine on it. Okay? And she said, baby, you'll be all right. Deal with the pain, you'll be all right. And next time you know not to run in them fancy shoes. Okay? So, but now we've gotten to a point, we don't want people to feel pain when they're little. We don't want them to feel disappointment, because the whole self-esteem thing. No, you should never beat a child down. Just like God in the book of Proverbs says. He said, train up a child in the way that they're to go. He didn't say the way you as a parent want them to go. But you're to observe a child, see their talents, their skills, just like in the law of Manu. They say there's generally 5 paths, like priesthood, mercantile, artisan, educator, and agriculture. And then you got paths that shoot off from those. And even though if you were born to a farmer, that originally the caste system was not meant to, you're born to a farmer, you are to be a farmer. It was, okay, the dad job may be, his skills was as a farmer, but the dad and the mom was to pay attention to their child, and their child may be a priest or a merchant or an artist or an educator. But what does that require? Us taking our time and paying attention to our children. But too many of us, and I had to learn this with my daughter, it's freaking hard work being a parent. I now appreciate what my grandmother used to do. Baby, here's the soapy water with the Clorox in it. Take the rag, wring it out real good, go over to the counter, wipe the counter off. Don't wipe it on the floor. Wipe it in your hand, because you don't want the ants or the roaches getting them. Okay, baby, take your time. It's so much easier. Get out of the way. I'll do it. Child fall. You know, give them a pill so they don't have any pain. Compared to, baby, I know it's uncomfortable. Come here. Granny will hold you. She'll rock you. I know but the iodine to stop it from infections. Because back in the day, people couldn't run their kids to the hospital and ask for a pill. Okay? You got a little discomfort. You know, you didn't instantly get Pepto-Bismol. Baby, what you had to eat. Oh, baby. You don't be mixing milk and pop within an hour of each other. But that takes work. Okay? Or you don't have a vinegary something. So part of the whole thing, in a lot of things that's going on with life, it takes time. And so many of us now think we don't have time to do it. But we don't realize if we take the time in the earlier stages to deal with stuff, it'll save us time later on. And we don't have a lot of these problems. But you got to do it in the early stages. And too many of us, you know, in our society, we don't want to take the time to think. So we want somebody who got the instant answer. I'll take care of America.
Even if it's absurd, their answer. Such as when he said, on the day that I'm sworn in, crime will cease to exist in America. I'm going to ask people who supported him.
Yeah, but
Hey, there's not supposed to be any crime anymore.
But you know what? The first thing they said, we knew that wasn't true. What he was saying. I'm gonna tell you just how we knew it wasn't true. But I just like the fact that he was willing to stand up there and say it. Because they can't stand the fact that you take President Obama. Okay, the stock market was at 6,500. It's now at 19,000. And it's not so much about the Trump rally. Everything that's been done over the 8 years, it's like a seed. It's starting to come to fruition. The earnings recession is starting to come back. Just like people in various communities. Well, I thought Obama was going to do this. Wait a minute. We was on the edge of hell. In 2008, sad to say, that was the year my husband passed over. And you're watching and you see the market going from 12 down to 6,500, okay? And you're not even sure if Social Security is going to be around. You're not even sure if companies were even going to be around. I mean, you had the people so scared that companies said, we ain't even giving you orange juice and donuts for a meeting, okay? And you know, some people say, well, ain't nothing changed. Praise God, nothing changed. Praise God, most folks. Sad to say, you had some people in foreclosures because as quiet as it's kept, some of us got greedy, got houses that were way too big for us. What a 25-year-old doing in a 3,600 square foot house? Trying to compete with their father and mother who waited till they were in their 50s to have the kind of house they think they're supposed to have at 20. But people say sometimes something staying the same is a good thing. Okay, because at least roof over your head, like the old folks say, shoes, clothes. But like a colleague I'm also a mechanical draftsman, and one of my colleagues at work, he was saying, you know what, Verneice, it's a trip what we Americans will do to ourselves. We'll have 8 years, just like with Clinton, 8 years, then we got to shoot ourselves in the foot. Maybe it'll be better with George Bush, okay? Had 8 decent years with Obama, okay? Don't want to give the man credit because I'm going to be honest. I pick with people. I said it's amazing how when things start falling apart, all of a sudden people of color and women can come into places of power. Okay, your city's starting to fall apart, your education now. Oh, you could be the supervisor of the school now. You could be the mayor of the city now. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And even when you do a good job, people don't want to acknowledge what you have done. Okay? And the whole thing, even with the Russian and Putin thing. Okay, talking about leadership. I know why they not giving him hell about having Putin. Let's be honest. Putin is white. Trump is white. I had an issue with Chris Matthews. Why can't we do what Reagan and Tiff O'Neill did? They're two Irish dudes. So they going to work on it. Well, you got this man who had the audacity to run for president, an African-American. Okay, some people say, well, he's not really African-American because his daddy was Kenyan, but his mama was an American. Okay, so you got one dude from Africa and the mama is American, so he's still an African-American. And I don't care if woman said, well, he's Arab. Most of Arabia is part of Africa, so he's still African-American. And that's one thing. Forgive me for going off on this rant here. I'll just be glad when we're considered Americans. Like if you're born in France, I don't care if you're African, Asian, whatever ancestry, you're French, you're Canadian, you're British. Eventually this teenage country will get it. That's the only reason I don't go crazy. People get upset. Well, what the Europeans going to think about us? Europe had 1,000+ years to get their act together, and they still working on it. It didn't start coming together till Charlemagne set up the educational system, and that's over 1,000 years ago and stuff. So we can be patient with ourselves, but people, as quiet as it's kept, and even with myself, when I didn't allow myself to, I understood and I thought I was aware of everything my husband was doing. It's hard work paying attention to details. And if you're not careful, it is so easy to get comfortable with letting somebody else do it. most of the folks that voted for him, they know he was not going to build that wall, but they just love the fact that he had the audacity to say it. Most of the folks, they know a lot of immigrants are not the root cause for them not having a job, but they like the fact that he said it. Because sometimes, if we're not careful, we will acquiesce to our lesser angels. Because it's so much easier than allowing ourselves to work with our greater angels. And we'll go all the way back to what you said at the top about the gentleman writing the book and saying thank you. A true angel wouldn't even be distracted with the fact that the gentleman didn't say thank you. I'm glad you mentioned me in the book. It would be nice to hear the greater angel wouldn't, put it down if he happened to say, I really appreciate you telling me thank you. But the greater angel said, that's icing on the cake. The cake is, I acknowledge where my help came from. But with all this stuff, you got, and I understand it, people get tired, they get weary. Nowadays, you not only, there was a time growing up, you knew your name, your date of birth, your address, your telephone number, and your social security number. That's all you generally needed to know to get by in life. You need a password for this. You need a password for that. You have so much more you have to be conscious of compared to back in the day.
Well, here's an interesting story about that. At the University of Maryland, they wanted to see if people had been losing their writing skills. So they said, we're going to conduct an experiment. They put it in the school newspaper. Would you like to earn $100? Show up at the office, and it has to do with you writing what your life is like without your computer phone. So that people would show up and they'd say, okay, give us your phone, here's $50, and then when you come back in 2 days, we're going to have you write out all your thoughts about what your life was like without a computer phone, and then we'll give you the other 50. So all these people showed up. They said, a free $100, man, this is fantastic, So people showed up, gave them the $50, says, come back in 2 days. Next person, $50, came back in 2 days. Well, what was astonishing about this experiment is 75% of the people, they showed up in less than 24 hours and said, here's your $50 back. I can't live without that thing. What does that tell us?
We can be trained. That's what it does. We're not as free as we like to think we are. Because I nearly had a heart attack when I lost my phone. I had a phone and I lost it. I was in tears. I was crying. I was, oh God, my husband, we got to call Verizon, get it shut down because ain't no telling what somebody going to do with it. So in all honesty, it's another appendage. We have allowed it to become and just like recently with the banking.
Is it like becoming a part of our brain?
Yes. Just something as simple as a phone book. You remember back in the day, you had a paper phone book, and you take the time to write the number in.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were talking about earlier, somebody on Facebook, should they teach children how to cursive write? And I'm like, heck yeah, because it's a craft, it's beautiful, da-da-da-da-da-da. And more importantly, it's a security thing. Because if something comes up, what do they use to verify whether it's you or not that actually agreed to a certain thing? What do they?
Your signature.
There we go.
Yeah.
But you lose that signature. What do you have to prove that you really didn't engage or really didn't sign or really didn't approve? Even being what I do in my field. People can put you know how you do your initials, but even how you write your initials can be proof of whether you actually signed that document or not. But if you don't know how to write, and just a subtle joy and cheer when you write something beautifully and you look at it, people wonder why young people are impatient and they don't seem to be able to focus on things for any length of time, and they need to be quote unquote entertained in order to be taught. I like what the Japanese and the Chinese, I don't know if they still do, but the whole art of Zen was handle boredom in a most skillful manner. And that blew me away when I read that in this book called Zen for Americans. We train our children to be bored, and Americans are like, what do you mean? If they can manage being bored, then they have the power to manage the world. Because in boredom, you're able to be more observant of what's going on around you. And one of the big sword masters, he said, do not become attached to the sword, become one with your opponent. But if you're not trained to be able to see the bigger picture, which boredom will do, and you're able not to be frustrated by being bored. I'm not there yet. That's why I share with people. I don't want to hear that you know it. I want you to realize it. Mm-hmm. And boredom makes you realize your environment. Mm-hmm. You can see the tree and the forest and the leaves. Whereas with us short-circuiting our brain and, okay, I got the phone. Oh, God, I lost the phone. And I didn't write people's phone number in my phone book because that's the biggest thing, my contacts.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm mad because banks get mad because you don't want to do online banking. What? Yahoo just admitted back in 2013, 6 billion people stuff got hacked?
Yeah.
And we wonder why sometimes somebody says, back in the day, we didn't have stress. But when you got society bombarding with you, you need to do this online, you need to do that online, and then you get on the phone, try to get somebody, and you got 4 layers of automated voices, and it takes you forever to get a person, and then you're sitting there wondering if the people are on the break and don't feel like being bothered answering your phone call, so they just keep saying, you know, our operators are busy addressing other customers where they may be like chugging their cup of coffee or whatever. Not to say they don't have a right to a break, but even just the principle of customer service. You go in the store, used to go in the AMNAs, people be happy to see you. They come where folks act like they doing you a favor standing there. Not all, but you get some people compared to, yes, ma'am, let me help you. Now, you don't need somebody piling on you and making you feel like they're making sure you're not shoplifting. But just that whole thing of service and engagement with people. And, you know, I understand sometimes how, you know, you used to get older folks that say, I'm glad I ain't got long to go. And it's not hopeless. Let me backtrack a little bit. But there are millennials who are, and I don't even like to say millennials. I hate all that. Millennial, Generation X. These are people. There's a lot of young adults who, though they're starting to appreciate the more subtle things. And customer service and meeting people, and it's even nice seeing some of them dressed up, you know, like something special going on, and the gentlemen in their suits, because I'm seeing the skinny suits from the 60s is coming back and the ladies dressing. So I have hope, and I guess sometimes, in spite of veering off, so many of us, we want quick answers, and we haven't been taught that best answers don't always come quickly. But I think prayerfully, and I know Obama may say, I trust the American people, but at the same time, Hillary won by 3 million, the popular vote. So this may be an inflection point. And as I posted with somebody, maybe the divine let him win because it's more manageable if he had won than if Hillary would have won. And folks getting real stupid, because you still got people acting stupid anyway, like the gentleman that went to Pizza Comet in D.C.
Yeah, that she was running a child prostitution ring. He actually believed that fake news.
But that's easy because he don't have to think. And I've seen that real quick. Somebody that I thought was intelligent, they posted Obama signed the thing. Obama signed the thing on no longer saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I said, girlfriend, that's insane. That's the last thing Obama would do, would sign something like that, because he know that would give justification for people to be pissed with him.
That was fake news.
Thank you.
She believed it.
Yep. University person. A progressive.
So the amount of gullibility has gone up.
Absolutely. You put a what they call a type head, make it look official with blue and the name of the journal or magazine in there. We don't read little details like we should, and we don't allow our brains to work the way we ought.
You want to say goodbye to the people?
I certainly will. Thank you for listening to some of these long-winded comments from me. Thank you.